be deaf, deaf. A Humvee mechanic with his Kevlar on wrong. I guarantee you'll meet up at the suicide bomb. Hell broke loose. Hell broke loose. Big fucking ditches in the middle of the road. You pay $100 just for filling in the hole. Listen to the general every goddamn word. How many ways can you polish up a turd? And left, right, left, left, right, left, right, hell broke loose.
Hey, it's Sully, and this is episode 549 of the Orange Pill Investor. The title of the video is The U.S. Cannot Afford to Live in Peace or in Conflict. And this is a little bit of a double meaning here. So, can't afford to live in peace in the sense, like literal sense. It can't afford it. Now, you would think that living in peace would be the cheap way to do things. And if we would just stop spending money on foreign wars and all of that good shit, maybe we'd be able to, actually balance the budget. But once you've reached this point of late stage collapse, you can't even afford the interest on the debt. And so at this point, in order to keep the fiat system afloat, they're just left with stealing resources from the rest of the world. With the Confessions of an Economic Hitman, there's a book from way back in the day. I actually read that one even before I had ever even heard of Bitcoin, which is crazy because now a lot of Bitcoiners are like, you got to read this to know how things work. But if the U.S. can't get what it wants with the economic stick and carrot, they've always got the economic hitman, and they can sink your country, embargo, or worse. You might get some nice regime change. You might get the regime change the hell out of your leader. Ask Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi, and probably a half dozen others how that works out. So living in peace seems like the cheap way to do it, but when you can't pay your credit card bills, and I mean the United States can't pay its credit card bills, they've got to go and do things like take other people's oil, shit like that. And it's kind of just reeks of desperation at this point. It definitely has the hallmarks of an empire in collapse, which is just a big reminder to protect yourself with Bitcoin. Even if the country doesn't devolve into civil war, you're gonna need your sats. That's for sure. So they can't afford it literally, and can't afford it just politically either, right? Because if you don't roll over a country ever so often, then the other world powers that want to be the top dog start to think that you're weak. But the U.S. is definitely grasping at straws here, because it's not like World War I or World War II, where you can go out there and steamroll actual armies that are on a level playing field. We couldn't even win the Vietnam War, right? We got our asses kicked in Afghanistan, which is just completely mind-boggling, because the whole point of Russia, back when there was the Soviet Union, we tricked them into a war in Afghanistan to bankrupt their country, and then we ended up like doing the same thing years later. And it just kind of like we can't even try to like bully other people our size. And it's kind of pathetic at this point that we're picking on the Venezuelas, right? We're picking on Palestine, not even a freaking country. Um, we're picking on all these little tiny countries and flexing because we can't afford to appear weak. But yet, when all you do is pick on weaklings, it kind of just proves that you aren't up to the task. Um, but the reverse is also true. Can't afford to live in conflict because every one of those bombs that they drop is just um, it's put on a credit card. So the debt is only increasing. What Trump wanted a historically large $1 trillion budget. I can't remember if that was the total budget or if that was just the military, but now he like wants $1.5 trillion. So it's kind of sad and pathetic, but a healthy reminder that you should be stacking sats and that the money printer is about to be like glowing red hot because we can't afford we can't afford to do nothing and we can't afford to do anything. So they're fucked, and the system cannot afford to pay its bills no matter what they do, and the printing will commence. Now, not saying that they won't tank the market as an excuse to really rev up the money printing. Um, if that happens, we could have some short-term pain. I know we had that episode of True North last week saying that the bottom is in, but there could always be some black swan shenanigans. Um, if they really want to crank up the money printer, and you can see the shit that's going on right now, like they're trying to put Powell up on charges or something. That's got to all be just the political. I mean, the guy probably doesn't deserve to go to jail. Whatever he's being accused of, I'm sure it's worse. He's probably guilty of worse. But yeah, the only reason that anybody gives a shit that he's probably a damn dirty criminal is that they're not doing what Trump wants or not lowering rates fast enough. So they will, for him to preserve his own legacy, he probably needs to at least fight, lowering the rates as fast as the administration wants. But the only way that they can cooperate and save face would be to tank the market first. So they might need a convenient excuse to tank the market temporarily. So don't be surprised if the bottom fucking falls out of everything like overnight. Usually lightning doesn't strike twice. So the housing crisis of 2007 kind of snuck up on us. I mean, people were warning, but it probably won't be the housing market again. It probably all will be related, but potentially like one thing is a domino to the other. So what can they come up with this time? Or even if it's not manufactured, they can just let it happen and then use that as an excuse to pump the market. I've been listening to tons of these Asian AI guy silver short squeeze videos, and I asked Grok about it, and like apparently this is a real threat. Grok thought there was maybe somewhere between like a 40 and 50% chance that there's a silver short squeeze, and maybe a 20% chance that could lead to some banks getting liquidated. And if some stuff like that happens, the Fed could use that as a convenient excuse to drop rates and say, oh, well, we're not dropping rates because Trump told us to. We're dropping rates because we have to inject liquidity because of the silver short squeeze is putting pressure on. I think J.P. Morgan supposedly had like millions upon millions of dollars of naked silver shorts for some fucking unknown reason. I guess they get used to just printing money, manipulating the currencies or the precious metals, I should say. And then I guess it works till it doesn't. So some folks might need some bailouts anytime soon. So I guess I might as well just throw that out there as my wild ass guess that if they do need a black swan event to tank the market temporarily to justify the money printing that's about to come, maybe it'll be silver. Maybe that'll be our scapegoat. Um, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can just buy SLV and print because the physical silver market is different from the paper market. Um, and they could just refuse to deliver the silver and pay out in cash, which would tank the SLV price temporarily, even though the physical silver price was running. So I don't know. You might be able to make some money in here on these ETFs, but the physical metal is probably the only way to guarantee that you sidestep the manipulations, right? Um, I took one teeny tiny cash secured put position in my wife's account. I sold like a cash secured put on silver, and I've already ended up closing that position. So I'm not really making this any kind of like core part of my strategy. But I would say that the paper silver has way more risk than holding physical silver, and I cannot bring myself to get my ass out of my chair and go like buy some fucking silver coins. So that's just not happening. So I'm basically sitting out on the sidelines. I just kind of wanted to mention it that if the fucking financial system blows up temporarily, it could be because of this. So they might have to blow it up before they pump it, but the pumping is coming. It's just, will it happen? Uh, Obviously, Trump wants the market to pump before the November elections, the midterms. So usually rich and powerful people get what they want. So I'm assuming it happens before then. Maybe we'll get a real October this year. That would be nice. So if I had to give my best educated guess, I say maybe we get new all time highs by October. That would fit nicely into the onto the political chessboard. What's up, Buffalo? Let's see. Arthur says, how much do you think strategy raises with Stretch this week? I think they already announced it. Oh, you mean this week instead of what is it at? So didn't they get? They raised $1 billion, but 90% of that was the common. I was super excited. I was like, holy shit, they raised $1 billion. They sold $1 billion worth of Stretch, and then I saw that only 10% of that was the ATM. Yeah, but I mean, still, that's pretty ridiculous. So 100. Let me see. Michael Taylor acquired $1.25 billion worth of Bitcoin. Somebody posted, yeah, it was like 90% common and 10% Stretch. So let's just make the math easy and say 100 million. I mean, I would assume that this gets more liquid, and so 100 million would probably be base case for the rest of the year, which would work out to like 5 billion worth of Stretch. So fuck it. I guess they'll buy another 100 mil this week, and another 100 mil the week after, and the week after, and the week after. I guess the upper limit would probably be about 50% amplification, but they're only at they're at very small leverage levels right now. So that's my call. 100 million a week for the next 52 weeks. Let's fucking go. It'll probably be less than that because there will be, if Stretch drops below 99, then they won't be able to ATM it. but they'll be able to do more than 100 million some weeks too. So I'm just going to call it now. Five Billy stretch acquisition for 2026. And that's not even including any of the other preferreds. I don't know. I don't know if that sounds ridiculous. All right. Let's see. Stretcher's not really doing much, so I'm assuming I won't be doing anything today, but just kind of running my mouth. Tesla's not doing anything terribly amazing, so this is not ready to roll yet. Plenty of time left on this option. I will be eyeballing it once it gets under like 450 trade price. Be looking to roll it out, or unless it gets to 20 to 25-ish days to expiration. I wanted to take an unlimited, excuse me, yeah, and I guess an uncovered position. This is technically still a limited call. It's $10 wide, which means I could make $1,000 on each of these spreads. So I've got 5 of them, and they cost me $70 a pop. So that would be like a 10x would get me to 700. So what, like potential 15x return on these. I would never hold these long enough to get there because I'd have to hold them for a whole freaking year in order for these to expire out of the money and collect that full 15x. So I would definitely ladder these positions if they actually win. And then I bought these even farther out, so more time to be right here, but also would take longer for this to actually appreciate. And the reason I did is just the long calls on Tesla just cost so much, right? Going out to here and trying to buy on a long call is going to cost me $3,000. I just couldn't justify spending that much when I'm already 40 grand in margin. I had this chipped down to 30K of margin, but I had to make a withdrawal and pay some bills. So I knocked the margin down 20 grand and then had to take 10 out. So it's back up to 40, unfortunately. Strategy is kind of just hanging around, so I will wait for this to decay. Same here, it's been open for 10 days, but hasn't really decayed much. I have been back on my 1080 bullshit, stacking a few of these. So if I collect, I don't know, $1,000 worth of premium, I'll chip away at the margin use, but then maybe buy a couple of these. So I will be dollar cost averaging into these occasionally when I'm rolling for a credit. And all the way out to like June of 2027 on this one. If we get a super cycle, maybe we peak in 2027 instead of 2025. I'm trying to be judicious, a little bit more judicious with the poor man's covered call stuff. This has got about a month left on its usefulness as a poor man's covered call, but its value has decayed so much that I can barely even squeeze any premium out of it. So this is just kind of a drag on the account to a certain extent. It is slightly theta positive. It's barely keeping its head above water. But if the price of strategy were to like rocket back to 200 plus in the next 30 days, then I don't know, this could do something, could be worth something, but not really happening right now. Sold some cash secured puts. So just, I already rolled this one recently, but in another, probably this week, I will need to roll this one out. I could hold it another week, I suppose. So we'll just keep an eye on that one. I had way too many poor man's covered calls and way too many 1080s last year. I'm still participating. I still want to participate, but I can't make it that large of a part of my portfolio this year. the irony would be that this would probably be the year to do what I did last year, and I'll trade in 2026 like I should have traded in 2025, and I'll have not traded in 2025 like I should have. That would be the stock market version of Alanis Morissette's "Isn't It Ironic" song. Same with well, same with this one. So upside down on this long call, it's not even in the money anymore. That it's kind of hard to get premium out of this. And this is the main danger with the Poorman's covered calls, is that if the price drops out of the underlying, you you lose money on the long, but then you also lose money because you can't collect that much on the shorts anymore. This one is still in good standing, right? Because 125 is still in the money. I can still capture meaningful premium at reasonable strikes compared to this position's value. You know, if strategy decides to fuck me and drop below 125 a share, then this position will turn into this position, unfortunately. So keeping these leveraged performance covered calls small, I think I had like, I don't know, probably a dozen of these damn things last year, and every single one of them lost money. So it's extremely capital efficient, but it's also much larger of a risk. All right, let's take a look at the IRA. Wow. So we're rocketing up past my strikes again. I managed to hold on to 100 of these shares, and I rolled out to the 48 strike, but we're already in the money here. So I'll probably end up letting iron get called away. And I wonder what it would cost me now. Like once this gets called away, if I were to turn around and sell a cash secured put at the 35. So it's still pretty capital efficient, right? Normally in a cash secured put, you would want to secure the full, this is the 35 strike, so about 3,500 bucks. But they're, since this is a margin account, they'd only count like half of that against me. But that's not nearly as capital efficient as Cypher for some reason right now. I don't have any Cypher position in here. But maybe I'll dump, and actually, it doesn't even matter because an IRA is not getting margin. Oh, that's why. This is a margin account. Okay. So, yeah, this looks different now. If I sell a cash secured put, it's really going to say 3,500 worth of buying power because you don't get any margin credit in an IRA. There we go. That looks better. This is the real number in a cash account. So anyway, that stuff that I was talking about, the buying power, that only applies to margin. This is the IRA. So belay my last. So yeah, if I can roll this for a credit, maybe I give that a shot. Otherwise, I'll just let these get called away. I'll sell at 48, and if this goes above 48, then I'll just profit up to the 48 and no higher. Tesla must be rallying since I rolled this because I sold it for 1,000 and it would cost me 1,400 to buy it back now. And also picked up some debit spreads here. What do these cost? If I were to close these, they're $1.68. So I think that's barely, a little better than break even, maybe 7% if I were to exit these positions now. So at least something that I own isn't going to shit. Okay, so be looking to roll these when they get under like $2, $2.20. So not ready. Not ready. Oh, I think I was running out of time and didn't. Oh no, I've got a weird combination of covered calls and poor man's covered calls. I guess I can pair these up. 125 and 65 is 190. So that actually works. Let's group. All right, this is my spending account. This is barely theta positive, so it's almost not even an option seller's account at this point because I added these long calls, which is a little bit of a drag on my account. Plus this 2 debit spreads. It's not much of a drag, but it's something. Where's all my positive theta coming from? So Cypher is almost all of my positive theta. And I guess the negatives are these debit spreads and these strategy long calls. So I'm pretty much, this is a smaller account, so I'm trying to use these cash secured put positions to fuel my long exposure. This is actually very close to being ready to roll. I suppose I could do it today. Let's just see. So if I roll and keep the same strike, the bid-ask spread here is pretty bad, though. I don't like the looks of that, so maybe I'll just hold on to this one for another week. And the early March dates are not available. Why is the liquidity on February 27th so bad? The liquidity here is pretty good. 39 days to expiration. The liquidity on the 46 sucks. All right. I mean, I can get a fill here. There's enough volume that this would fill. I guess there's just enough premium here to collect that I'm not in a rush to roll this position. And if I'm gonna have to roll it to a strike and expiration that has shit liquidity, I'm even less motivated to roll it out. See, I rolled this one to, yeah, so this was the other date that had decent liquidity. All right, I'll have to keep an eye on that. Nothing, since this is really the only short positions that I have to roll. Everything else is just kind of like way long expirations that I don't need to like watch. They had to have been, you know what, let's go to Strive's website. Disable ad blocking. Are you out of your mind? Not disabling jack shit. Actually, this didn't change, so I don't know how often they update this, but they ATM'd SATA a while back, this 1.27 million, and I just assumed that since SATA's staying above 95, they would be ATMing it a little bit, but this is not updating. It says real time. I don't know how real time is. Wonder if this is my VPN or wonder if it's my what is it, ad blocker? I can't remember. Let me pull it up on let's see, this is Chrome. Let me pull it up on. Yeah, it's the same on Edge. All right. So this kind of surprises me that they're not ATMing SATA. Maybe they just want to see if they can push it to 100 before they ATM it again. I don't know. Maybe this was a test run or something, but if we see this number creeping up, then we know they're ATMing their preferred. I guess they pay. I don't know. I can't remember who pays between them and Strategy. One of them pays on the first of the month, and the other one pays on the 15th. What a coincidence! What a coinkydinky! All right. Well, let's see. I think I have the ex-dividend date here. No, that's probability of touch. Don't they have ex-dividend? Okay, it's not listed. Tasty Trades, for some reason, is not listing the ex-dividend date. Week. Buffalo says 5 bill sounds right to you as well. Total stretch ATM for 2026. Let's see. I think Strive is filing less frequently than Strategy. Yeah, looks like it. Yeah, they definitely are filing less, but I mean, this says real time, so it's not really real. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be anything I'm doing here. So Cypher, my strikes are getting threatened. So yeah, 17.20 a share. So we'll see if Cypher ends up above or below 18 for Friday. If it's over, it's fine. I can let them get called away or see if there's a strike that I can roll for a credit. These are ready to roll, I think. What's my cost on this cash secured put? Yeah, $1.29. Once they get under 65, it's definitely ready to roll. But these expire on the 23rd, so that's only 11 days away. Yeah, I keep saying every day I keep saying I got to go with my brother-in-law and roll these, and then I keep forgetting before he ends up going to work. But I also have this CLSK put. I had to sell this one because I only had $1,100 of buying power, so I couldn't afford another Cypher cash secured put. I had to find something cheaper. Still trying to run some credit spreads. The bullish version is the put credit spread, so that's, in generally I'm bullish on Tesla. Sold this one for 230. I'll look to roll it when it's at approximately 115. So seems to be kind of going okay so far, so good. But the strategy is about the same. You roll it every 2 to 3 weeks. Also got a little bit long-term debit spread. Hoping strategy will be over 205 by June. Might if they have to tank the market before they pump it, June might not cut it. But if they have to pump it for 6 months before the November election, that's at least by May. So maybe. But I'll probably dump this position by March anyway, win or lose. So yeah, this might be a loser. What if I should just roll it out now? And then same, I wanted some long exposure to Tesla, so I bought some way attack the tail debit spreads a year and a half out, and then got some speculative leaps in Strive, and then even this one was kind of fun, just like a Strive debit spread, cost almost nothing, and it's $3 wide, so the 2.5 means it's $3 wide, potential to win $300, and it only cost me like 10, 15 bucks, 17 bucks. So the potential to basically like 15x, but it takes a long time to get there. This one's January 2028. All right, yeah, whole lot of nothing today. Just kind of monitoring and waiting for Theta to do its thing, or waiting for Bitcoin to do a thing. That would be cool. If Bitcoin could just run, that'd be great. Theta X dividend is the first, so they're going to pay on the 15th-ish. And then Stretch is going to be opposite then. They're going to have X dividend on the 15th and pay on the 1st. So if you want to hold both, you can get some bi-monthly income. I don't really know if switching makes any sense, because don't you have to hold it for like a longer period of time in order to get the tax benefit? I'm not a financial advisor. I'm sure as hell not a tax advisor, but I thought there was something in there where you had to hold it. You couldn't just buy it before the ex-dividend date, turn around and sell it, and not pay capital gains tax. I could be wrong. Maybe you can do that. But usually that's just kind of a pain in the ass. It doesn't get you much. Trying to like buy before dividends and sell after. Unless they can really keep the peg going, maybe you could do that. But having one on one date and one on the other, I think that just kind of makes it more convenient for the fixed income crowd, so that they can get paid twice a month instead of just once. Whenever you sell, you basically realize the gains on the dividends. Yeah, that makes sense, because it's tax free until you sell. So if you sell, then you're just kind of you're not you're not, I guess, taking the full benefit of that. But yeah, I've seen a bunch of people like, oh well, I'll just rotate in and out. I'll just rotate my dry powder from Stretch to Theta and collect both dividends. But yeah, you're going to pay the capital gains on that, which would end up being, I guess, short term, since you're not holding it for a year. So probably doesn't make sense to ping pong around. But I don't know. If somebody's doing it and making money, can't complain with that. All right, so I don't think I even made a trade today, but as an option seller, that's kind of the point. This is very low maintenance. You could literally do this once a week, once a month, and roll positions. It's really not that serious. But I wouldn't make a whole lot of content if I made one video a month. So we're basically just talking the same shit day after day. But there's always something in the news to talk about. So let's see, if you're in a taxable brokerage, you should just hold. Yeah, that makes sense.